I just love all the... Popped it up top. And now we are going to go ahead and put some trim and ribbons around our junk journal. Front cover, back cover, inside covers. We have already affixed the fabric. And let's see which color we want to go on the outside. I kind of am drawn to this red. So let's pull this red over. He's a very, very big, heavy piece. And let's see what we need to go around him. And we said it was something like 10 by 16, but I'm just going to go ahead and take it around, and then we will cut and sew the edge and then sew it on to the junk journal. So I'm taking it around and measuring ever so briefly. Any excess that I cut off by mistake is going to be some beautiful tags, so no worries, I do not waste. Okay, and then the two sides. One, and two. I give myself a tag space, and then we're going to take that first to the sewing machine, and just so we don't have frayed edges, we're going to sew on both sides of the line before we cut right in between, and that way we're not going to lose or fray our fabrics. So let me do that. I have the stitch on a straight stitch. I'm going to lower my length a little bit because I want it tight, and just holding that. And again, we're just going to lock in all of those threads. So I'm going to go back and forth 3, 5 times, something like that, in both places. So they don't come unthreaded as we're sewing. And pull that out. And find my scissors. Trim it from the machine, cut it right in between. Okay, so we have our length that we need, approximate size, and we're going to set the other off to the side where it's not in our way. We're going to decide where we want to start it. I usually like starting on the bottom because that way if I have the excess bulk, it's in the bottom, it's in the center. I'm very good with it. So I'm going to start right here in the bottom center. And with the excess in here, I may do some collaging, or I may even put a pocket on it. So when the fabric doesn't cover everything, I'm very good with that. Because again, this is a junk journal. The more you add to it, the better. We're going to collage, we're going to pocket, we're going to make this our own. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to determine the inside and the outside. This one is very easy to see. That is the inside. That's the beautiful outside elegant part. So we're going to start that right in the center. And we're just going to zip right along here. Make sure both threads are underneath. And I think I'm going to change my bottom thread. I should have done that before we started. With this, I can either change to the brown or a red. So it's going to blend in a little bit better because in these tassels, I do have the brown as well, which I think the gold goes very nice with the different, I would say pocket watches, but they are... tells you directions, compasses. It's a bunch of compasses. And I chose the compasses because I thought they looked absolutely cool. And when you're up in the mountains, when you're traveling, when you're going different places, the compass was the thing to carry. So we always knew where we were and we could find our way back home. And it made our journey all that more fun when we wouldn't be too lost. Okay, so now I can zigzag stitch or I can straight stitch. I think I'm just going to straight stitch around it once, maybe go back and zigzag. So this sewing machine does not have the option to go fast or slow. So sometimes it doesn't cooperate with me and goes a little bit faster than I would otherwise prefer. And when I get to the side, I'm going to pivot down my needle down move the head of the foot up. I'm going to just turn this. And these are very, very heavy bobbles. So I have to make sure that they're out of the way of the sewing machine so that I don't run over or get too close to that bead or otherwise cause any damage. And I stay on the page. All right, so let's start that up. We're going to foot down again. Made our turn. And now we're on the edge of our file folder. And we're going to go all the way around. Now, sometimes I do put this on the inside and the outside at the same time, but because this one is so heavy and so elegant, I'm not going to be putting it on the inside and the outside. We'll find like a pink or red, maybe a gold lace, and put it on the inside cover just to make that one look that much more exciting. Okay, we're going to raise that needle. And we turned right where I've got that jewel in the way, so I had to pick that up and move it over a bit. Lay all of these out straight. And we're going to come right down that side as we are sewing. I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher onto the compasses. Keeps wanting to pull off there on the edge. All right, and I am loving this so far. It is a little bit cumbersome to work with. But I think it's going to add a lot of weight, a lot of body to this journal. And I think it's going to make it all that much more to hold, to hug, to write in as we go. And again, with this, when I lift and I pivot, it is catching on these jewels right at the edge of the fabric. So I'm having a little bit of jostling around my corners, which is a little bit more work than normally I have to put into. Okay, let's give that an extra little poke coming down here. There we go. Needle down, pick that up, turn it around, and again we're catching on a jewel right at the end, so we have to pull that around and over. And then, just like I said, we have about a 2-inch overlap. I think I might cut that off for a tab, but because it was heavy, I pre-cut the measurement, and because each of these were not precise and done on a measuring board, I did not want it to be too short. If you do cut it too short, that is okay. You can mend it. Just cut off another 2-inch segment, sewing on either side before you cut it, and add it too. It is a junk journal. We can put keychains, beads, collages, everything else over any mistake that you make. So not to worry there. Okay. And we're coming around, and before I secure it all the way, I'm going to look at these tassels and decide, do I want to have overlaying or do I want to cut that off? And I'm almost thinking that I want to go ahead and leave it on and overlay it. If I trim that section off, yes, I think I will trim that section off. So I have played with that concept, and we've run off the cardboard there while I was chatting. So we're going to pick that up, put it back on, and we're going to keep on going up here. We're going to bring it right to our starting point. Now, Now I'm going to try, while it's still connected, to go ahead and lift my foot, pivot, go over those threads so I do not unwind them. So we're going to see how that works. And again, we've got the balls, the beads at the bottom. Okay, and that looks like it's going to be just fine. I'm going to lift my needle, foot down. Okay. Can't go right over the beads. Come on, baby. You got this. Okay, more than enough secured. Pull that off, trim my threads, and then since I did go over that and seal it, I'm going to go ahead and trim it where I want. And because that extra 2 inches that I got from the bolt did not have a tassel, I will be able to put that on a bookmark, but it'll be a different, or a tag, but it won't have that tassel. So instead of putting it coming off the top, I may put it coming down the tag. So that's a nice little piece. We're just going to sew that real quick so it stays in place. And if I were throwing that away, I would not have to sew that. But again, I want to keep that and put that on a tag. So we are going to keep that. And that's why I sewed on it. All right. So what do we think to the outside of this journal? I'm loving it. The inside looks like it needs a lot more help. I'll just collage a little bit down here. That'll be absolutely gorgeous. But the inside, again, we're going to get some lace and go around this part to cover that up. And I think in the process, I'm going to go ahead and put pockets on the inside of this journal. So there is a nice start to the journal. I know it looks really floppy, but once we get the body in there, I hope that you're going to love that one. And it looks like one of my tassels just came apart at the top. So we'll see what we want to do about that, because it is losing all of its threads. So we're going to have to doctor that one. Okay, so let's put that aside, and we'll determine the best course of action for it. I think maybe knotting the part that is left there, and then maybe sewing the threads onto a different section. Because again, I like to keep everything that I can. All right. And just for easy knotting purposes, I'm going to cheat and do it by the sewing machine. And we'll look into that. Tying that off. Now we have it. Okay, so there's one. And let's get working on number 2. Clean off our little baubles. Put them in my collection bowl. I put the beads here. Might even use that in the paper later. So we're going to put that in the collection bowl. Okay. And starting on our next one. This, I'm thinking definitely one of my 2 browns. I could use the green. The red, I think, is a little bit too bold for this one. So I think green is good too. Might pale it out too much. I think one of the browns, maybe this tassel. So maybe go around with this one. Okay, and this, they've taped the edges. I'm going to go ahead and sew that before I get started. And then rethread my needle. And I do like the beiges a lot on these books. I don't know why, but books just make me think red and brown. Usually the brown. The older books had the brown covers, the red covers, a lot of covers, a lot of colors, but I just find myself very partial to the browns. So let's sew off this edge. keeping a lot of my threads for in the, I might make them in paper, or I might use them in a shawl that I like, using the invisible filler. I want you to see this. So when you audition it, you really kind of look at it. How do you like it? I really like that. I think we're going to go with that. I like that a lot. So let's do this one. All right. So, and we can do my handy dandy little non-measuring measure job. So we can pull off the correct amount, sew it, trim it. One extra bobble, and then we're going to sew in between these two, and so we can cut it off without fraying. Hobby Lobby and stores don't have a sewing machine that they can easily turn to every time they sell a piece of this in their yardage cuts. So you'll notice that they use tape. You can use tape as well. Tape is perfectly fine. I like using the sewing machine, but that's because it's handy for me. All right, so move that over there, and let's go ahead and affix this. Again, I do like starting at the bottom, near the center. And we're just going to run around this one as well. I think I'm going to stay up from the edge just a little bit. Put my needle up there. Oopsie. And again, these do have weight. Doesn't have as much weight as with the beads, but it still definitely holds its own. And I'm going to come right into the side and start that. And I think for this one, I might go ahead and use a zigzag stitch, because like I said before, either a zigzag or a straight stitch to go ahead and secure these on. It's tugging a little bit with the weight, so I'm going to pull that up here. And put my needle at the edge, needle down, foot up, pivot, fold it over, and begin my edging up here. And the more practice you get, the more fun you're going to have with it. A couple of back stitches here and there as we go. Oopsie. Okay, and needle on the outside corner, foot up, turn, or pivot, fold it over into a square. Make sure your tassels are going on the right side on the outside. And I'm going to leave on the top of this book the torn part up so you can see it. I'm not sure if we'll slice it off later. Some people like a clean edge. I kind of want to dirty it up with some permanent ink and have it as a very frayed one. All right, making our way across the top. I like having mixed media in a journal. I like the paper. I like the fabric. I like the different textures. So you'll often find in my journals that I use as many different, even plastics. Metals, I like using thin metals, different shapes and contours in the journal, because I kind of think that person who uses the most different foreign found objects wins. And at this bottom corner, I'm going to go ahead and lock it in with several stitches there. Needle to the outside, turn, come across, and see on this one, it is, I did measure poorly. We are going to have some extra, so before I get to the very end, we'll sew that back and forth so we can cut it without any fraying issues or without that coming apart. So before I'm to the end, I'm going to lock in my stitch, needle up. Come on, baby. Unhook. There we go. And I'm going to trim it. And because, again, I did not measure precisely, I'm not running too short. I gave myself excess. We've got plenty of this to put on different tassels, bookmarks. And we're going to bring it over to here. So I'm overlapping about 1 inch. And, back to a straight stitch. Pick it up, move it over, straight stitch. Lock in those threads. And then trim all my threads off. Cut it right in between the thread lines that I have used. I think I'm going to cut it right there. And then we're going to come right over to the edge. And see, just 4 beautiful little tassels. I can make 4 different bookmarks there, 4 different tags, or 2 wide tags. So that's going to be a pretty addition there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pop this back under the sewing machine. And we've got those extra 2.5 inches to sew up here. So we're going to start again. Did I unthread my needle? I think I just unthreaded my needle for myself. So foot back up. And instead of finding it and going back through, I like starting over from the top and threading it, whatever works easiest for you with a sewing machine. And you can do that. What do you think of the new glasses? I just got them. Went into the eye doctor a couple weeks back and had them mail them to me instead of me picking them up. And so they're a little loose on my nose, so I apologize ahead of time if they, if you see me pushing them up too often here while I do the videos. Because again, I just put them on for the first time last night since I received them and have not fixed the nose piece properly there yet. All right. Lock in that stitch, turn it back over to a zigzag. Come on, lift up. All right. And come back over. And finish that up. All right. And this is the part I would normally say I rock. Oopsie. Trim my threads. Come on, threads. Where are you? Okay. I love, 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 love that outside cover. What do you think? Huh? Very nice. Okay. And 2 done, and 6 more to go.